or solve is the question of his paternity, who was Jack Nicholson's father. It always struck me as odd that he sidestepped the question, and that whenever anyone broached the subject in an interview, he either slid right past it or got huffy and called an end to the interview. I mean, those were things that was a subject that was taboo as far as I was concerned. So naturally, that's the one that I latched onto and worked hardest to try to solve. And then, I ultimately got as much confirmation, I think, as you can get, short of a DNA test. And that's in the book. His father was a Latvian illegal immigrant named Eddie Kirschfeld, who changed his name to Eddie King, and changed his religion from Judaism to Episcopalian after he had landed in the United States. And Jack Nicholson still has a half-brother alive and well and selling insurance in northern New Jersey. And I think that's instructive in a number of ways in terms of his conflicted persona, both on and off screen, and it says a great deal about where he came from and his drive to overcome his illegitimate birth and his roots and be the success that he is. That's one area where it breaks new ground. I think it also breaks new ground in terms of demonstrating his oddly mercurial and contradictory personality. In many ways, he's comparable to his lifelong hero, Frank Sinatra, who himself was a great artist, arguably the most accomplished vocalist of the 20th century. A man who was greatly admired for a lot of good reasons, but who also had a dark side and a mean-spiritedness to him that seemed to contradict the warmth that he felt towards members of his own family and the people who were closest to him. Nicholson is very much akin to Sinatra in that way. He was, and I suspect probably still is, generous to a fault. If someone comes to him, someone that he knows and has been close to over the years, someone comes to him with a hard luck story and asks for his help, Jack has an open wallet and an open heart. But he keeps track of every dime. And like any godfather, he suggests that there will always be a quid pro quo. And becomes a petulant 5-year-old again, and acts out, and wreaks havoc on those who have offended him. I'm thinking in particular of Susan Ansbach. Of course, there's a lot of bad blood with them that goes back years, but there was the whole story in the 90s of how Ansbach was about to lose her house because Jack was foreclosing on her. And she, of course, was the mother of his first illegitimate son. So he'd be like, remarkably generous in terms of seeing to the needs, the upkeep of his illegitimate child, and by extension, the mother of his illegitimate child. But the second that she crossed him and goes public and says, "Yeah, Jack fathered my son," he's sending out his lawyers and his business manager to sell her house out from under her. There are many examples in the book of how he can be remarkably generous and remarkably petty, almost one right after the other. And I think that that's a second place or a second instance of where 5 easy decades breaks the ground in terms of who Jack is and what makes him tick. What else? I mean, the other thing is that the book follows the original premise of how the motion picture business has evolved and shows that in terms of Jack Nicholson and his career, how he went from being a no-talent star of some of the early Roger Corman potboilers to a journeyman actor by the time he broke in the big time as an easy rider in 5 Easy Pieces. And then calculated each step of the way how he and his career would ride the various ebbs and flows of Hollywood over the next generation. Jack was never very far from success. He made, a stinker here and there, but he always calculated the market, and he always translated it into the biggest possible payday for Jack Nicholson, which is why today he's not only one of the best-known icons, if not the best-known icon that Hollywood has to offer, but he's also one of the richest men on Mulholland Drive.
Did he try to thwart your book?
Well, I think so. I think the way that Jack, but you see, a lot of this is predictable, though, Luke. I mean, and I knew the job was dangerous when I took it, to quote Professor Peabody. I knew, Jack has never cooperated with any biographer, ever. And Jack rarely gives out